A good evening to you and welcome to the Nation Leadership Forum. Now, as I stand here, I was looking at some statistics that have been shared with me. 47% of teen pregnancies in Kenya are unwanted. Did you know that? 1 in 3 adolescent girls is pregnant or has given birth. 13,000 drop out of school every year due to pregnancy. 948 girls get pregnant in Kenya every single day, and pregnancy-related complications is one of the leading causes of death in teens or adolescents, as we have it between those between 15 and 19 years of age. So this evening we're discussing teen pregnancy and how we can act to end it by 2030. Joining me, or even sooner, I should say, and joining me to have this conversation, we have Denita Gati, who is a member of the Kenya Women Parliamentary Association. She is a member of parliament nominated to represent persons with disability. Also in studio, we have Vanya Kibui, who is the Africa Region Policy Lead, AMREF Health Africa. We have Jacqueline Waweru, who's joining us from the coast, and she is a Youth Steering Committee member, YACT. YACT, you ask, what is YACT? That is Youth in Action. And we also have a gentleman in studio, and his name is Mwambi Mongare. He's the Deputy Director, the Department of Children's Services under the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection. I'd like to invite them all to our panel and invite you as well to take part in this conversation. The hashtag should be on your screen. The handles are at @obarrows, at NTV Kenya. That of Mheshimiwa Denita is Gati Denita. We have Vanya Kiki, at Waweru Jacqueline, and at SP_Kenya. That is Social Protection Kenya. All right, let's get straight into the conversation, and I'm going to turn things a little bit around, and I'll start with you, Jacqueline. Why is teen pregnancy a problem?
Thank you so much. I believe Kenya, because this is affecting young people, and that means already it's affecting our system in terms of education. Our girls are dropping out of school, and when a girl drops out of school, that means even she's not able to negotiate in terms of even market and the job space, so illiteracy level, and even in terms of our community, we are having young people or generations of young people who, one, are not able to compete in the job market. Two, we are having a cycle of parenthood which young people are not ready for. That means we are having young mothers who are taking care of children, and that now becomes a cycle that will now become when a mother gives birth to a young child, and then the other thing, she's not able to give the proper information to bring up this child, and she does not have the proper even resource to take care of the child. So it becomes a generational curse, or I would say it becomes a generational cycle, because there's a high probability of chance that the child also will come now give birth as a teenager, and now it's becoming a big burden to our economy, because it means these are young people who cannot participate even when it comes to social economical activities, or even in terms of even taking part in the normal things that young people are able to take part, even to get into a tertiary maybe institution, or even to try and go back to school. So this is becoming a very big issue right now in terms of teenage pregnancy, even these young mothers being able to access health services, because some of them do not even have the information, they do not have even the self-esteem, because one thing, when a young girl gets pregnant at an early age, that means also that's going to affect her self-esteem, because she's not able to stand as other girls, because she's gone to school and she's been able to access education. So this is really becoming a big issue right now, currently, even to young as young children, and even to the young people right now.
Okay, so it has socioeconomic consequences and affects the future of these young girls. But how many young girls are we speaking about? In the last year, Mwambi, I'll ask you to come in at this point, now that Jackie has gotten the ball rolling. In the last year, we've had reports of there being an escalation in teen pregnancies. There are those who deny that. What, given that you work in the Department of Children's Services, is the situation?
And I can start from where my Jack has left. At first instance, teenage pregnancies is not allowed at all. It's not to be allowed by law, because these are children around 18 years. By definition, a child, as by Kenyan laws, it's very clear that is a person who is under 18 years and even the Sexual Offences Act, that person is not allowed to be engaged in sex whether with the consent or without consent. So I think that's what members of the public need to know. So when you talk about teenage pregnancy, I've seen it 47%, even that 47% should not arise anywhere because these are children. So we should let our children be children. The figures we saw last year. Why, as a government, we disputed for any data to be accepted by Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, the issue of validity and reliability is a very big issue. Because you find a case has been reported in school, a child has dropped out of school because of teenage pregnancy, or she has conceived. That the same girl goes to the Minister of Health, a certain facility, it is recorded. The same case is reported to our ministry because we deal with children issues in this republic. So you find one girl maybe is reported twice, thrice, 4 times. So whenever you see those figures, sometimes the figures look alarming, but now something needs to be done about it because the issue of data in our country. So we need a system whereby we ensure that if a case is recorded by one subsect of the government or by within the republic, it should not be reported again elsewhere. That's why you find those figures go high. I think that's why last year, as a ministry, we came out very strongly, and it happened that it came out after we were almost launching Violence Against Children survey of 2018-2019, whereby sexual violence was one of the issues which we researched on, and the figures we got out were not the similar figures which came out. That's why we did dispute the court capacity of validity and reliability. But as a government, what we have done as a ministry, Minister of Rape and Social Protection, because we are the people by law who are allowed to take care of children in this republic, we have come up with a child protection information management system whereby all cases concerning children are recorded at the press of a button. You can get, if you want to talk about child neglect, child abduction, talk about teenage pregnancy, those cases which are reported to our offices, they have been recorded, and so at least now, we can proudly say the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics has agreed with whatever we are doing, and for the first time, for this year's economic survey, those figures have been captured as authentic figures. Okay. So some of the figures which we see, members of the public will be very aware of because you don't know how did we arrive at those figures.
All right.
So I think that's been a big issue, and it needs to be addressed. We make sure the figures we are giving are reliable, and so that again we don't create a state of panic within the country. When you talk about those figures of around 40,000 and all of those which were given, I think everywhere we could have seen, like, find a city like Nairobi, 40,000 girls who are almost delivering. It is very worrying. And even during the exams, the numbers we saw, they were not as big as that have been portrayed.
So clearly there is a need for reliable data to inform decision making in this direction.
Yes.
And Vanya, I'd like you to come in at that point. You are the Africa region policy lead for AMREF Health, AMREF Health Africa, I beg your pardon. And YACT is an initiative of AMREF Health Africa. And YACT works in collaboration with about, is it 3,500 youth advocates and about 780 organizations. And you've been working in this space trying to address the issue of teen pregnancy. So what is at the root cause of this rise in teen pregnancy? Is it a cultural issue? Is it a case of an escalation in gender-based violence? Could it be, teens not having adequate sex education? Perhaps is it an issue of not having access to sex and reproductive health services? What have you found, or is it a combination of those factors? What have you found to be the root cause?
Thank you so much for your question. Yes, YACT is a youth initiative of AMREF Health Africa. We work to empower the voice, skills, and participation of young people. And when it comes to sexual reproductive health and gender equality, when it comes to an issue like teen pregnancy, our way of engaging on anything that concerns young people is to work with young people and, get to know what it is they see the issue as. And it is everything as you have quoted. Once the first alarm was raised in 2019 regarding, the alarming number of cases of teen pregnancy in the country, we went back to young people to be like, okay, the government is saying that this is a problem. What do you think the solutions are? And that's exactly what young people told us. There's lack of sexuality education, there's social cultural influences, there is poverty, and there is lack of an enabling environment for referral for cases of sexual and gender-based violence. So it's not that the causes have changed. It's because in 2020, everything for us became magnified. We had this pigeonhole through which we looked at all realities. And so when the numbers came out around March last year, the reaction was the same as the year before. So it's not that there was that much of a difference. In fact, in some counties, I think even in Machakos, there had been a slight reduction. And this alarm we raise is very cyclical. So we tend to forget. We raise alarm and tend to forget. So what WIAC decided to do is engage partners in this bold, audacious campaign called the Sauti Sasa campaign, Voice Now campaign, that is fueled. It's a youth-led accountability campaign that then looks at these issues and innovates youth-led, youth-driven solutions that are context-responsive. Because the drivers of teen pregnancy in West Pokot are not going to be the exact same ones in Bungoma or Nairobi or Samburu, or Kakamega.
And so that's why it's important to engage the youth.
Yes.
All right. So, Mheshimiwa Denita, I'd like to come to you at this point. One causation that has been raised by Vanya is poverty. And you primarily champion the rights of persons with disability. Are they also particularly vulnerable where teen pregnancy is concerned?
I want to thank you because this is a very timely discussion, and especially because we are coming from a situation that is COVID-19. And you can imagine, really, we have girls and then we have girls with disabilities. And as you know very well, the research has shown that 1 in every 10 girls is a girl with disability. And you can imagine the challenges that they really face in this country and everywhere else. I mean, when you're talking about teenage pregnancy, we are also looking at now girls who already are vulnerable by virtue of their, their disability, by virtue of, their poverty, because girls with disabilities, out of the sections for girls with disabilities are the poorest of the poor. They come from poor communities, they come from poor, infrastructural, developments. They hardly go to school. And then there is COVID. I mean, we just come from a situation where there is COVID. You realize that out of the girls who actually get pregnant, girls with disabilities are extremely affected, because girls with disabilities, because of their vulnerabilities, because they are locked in homes most of the times, you will realize that they are very prone to, to abuse. They are prone to defilement. They are prone to, violence. And you realize that even this, this violence and rape and defilement happen within their home settings, and even by close relatives. These are girls who completely have nobody to speak for them, who have nobody to take care of them, who completely rely and depend on every other person who is available for them in terms of aid or of help. So we have seen an increase in terms of girls with disabilities who are defiled by their relatives. And that is a huge concern for us, because especially this period that has been Corona, this lockdown period has seen an escalation of violence against the girl child with disability. And therefore, even these cases that are coming up of teenage pregnancy, you will realize that girls with disabilities are extremely in the mix, and nobody is there to, look at girls who are intellectually challenged, for example. They cannot speak, they cannot make anybody comprehend whatever they are saying. And so people often tend to take them, to take advantage of them. People find them very easy to get and very easy. And generally in Kenya or anywhere else, girls with disabilities, the fact that they're usually secluded, and no community has no much interaction with them, they also, they do not go to report. In fact, those cases that are reported, even to family members, even to caregivers, you realize that girls with disabilities hardly report a rape or a defilement or a violence. So, you know, so they are they're left to carry their own burden and their own cross. And so it is extremely bad, and it is extremely difficult for girls with disabilities, even as we're talking about teenage pregnancies. And, you know, society has this tendency of thinking that girls with disabilities, you know, because they cannot defend themselves, they will not be, you know, it is not easy for them to be identified. I mean, a girl with disability cannot identify a relative. And that is what happens in most cases. So girls with disabilities are extremely disadvantaged. That's why we are saying girls generally belong to school. Vulnerable. They find it very nice, and a good place to belong to is a school setup, you know, because schools are safer for girls.
Than being at home.
Than being at home. Okay. Because you are at home, you are excluded, you are stigmatized even by your homestead friends. And then here you are raped or defiled. There are issues there. So we want to put structures, and we want to ensure that when we are talking about girls, we are also not leaving behind girls with disabilities who are extremely disadvantaged like 100 times. Those are the discussions we want to be creating in this country.
All right. And I know you've taken note of that, Mwambi, this vulnerability of these groups. Girls with disability, poverty has been raised as an issue by Vanya. There's a question of violence at home that has been raised by Mheshimiwa Denita. How are you addressing these challenges as a department for children?
First and foremost, I thank Mheshimiwa for raising that issue. When we talk about children, whatever we do is based on 4 pillars. The first pillar is survival. We have development, protection, and participation. When we talk about protection is the issue of non-discrimination. Whether you have a disability or you don't have a disability, we treat all children in a similar way. As a ministry, and as I come from government, I can say without fear or favor, from the year 2004, the government has started various programs to address the issue of poverty in the various households. We have 4 types of cash transfers, whereby the government is releasing over 24 billion to households in Kenya. And we hope this money will caution such kind of families. Within that cash transfer, we have a cash transfer for over 47,000 persons with severe disabilities. We have over 353,000 households where we have orphans and vulnerable children. Even a child with a disability is one of that within that group again, so they are still benefiting. Then we have over it is now the largest, whereby we have almost 16.7 billion money going for the persons, for the elderly, or a person's cash transfer, whereby you find the money going to those households are there to caution the public, so that these girls, Mheshimiwa was mentioned among the vulnerable groups, so that at least they are benefiting. Year in, year out, this money comes out every 2 months, at least something is being done. The issue of vulnerability, everybody is vulnerable. You can talk in the backroom of hearing Mheshimiwa, all of us, in one way or the other, we have our black side. It doesn't mean that we are totally disabled. Even a person with a disability, there's something Mheshimiwa can do which I can't do. It doesn't mean that Mheshimiwa is more disabled than me, or am I more disabled than him. So the issue of vulnerability is being addressed. And as a department, much is being done, even from the Ministry of Education. You see, wherever they are giving funds under the free primary education, they give more funds to a child with disability. The similar way, even in secondary schools, something is being done to address the issue of vulnerability, more so children with disabilities. I think that's one population, in most cases, which is being ignored.
Okay.
So what you find when you talk about the Person with Disabilities Act, they will be talking about assistive devices for who? They are not talking about children. Look at our city, Nairobi. A child with a disability traversing across this CBD when it has rained. Do we have passes? Do we have assistive devices to assist the child to traverse the city? I think the answer is a big capital no. So as a country, we need to wake up the way Mheshimiwa has put it.
Okay.
We look at these children as citizens of this country. They deserve They are not begging. It is their right to be served. The Act clearly says that the government shall use all its available resources to address issues concerning children in this country.
Okay.
Children disabilities are among them, so they need to be addressed.
Okay, and a person who interacts with the youth and even these girls that have been put in this situation of teen pregnancy is Jackie. And when we come back from this break, Jackie, I want you to tell us, given your interaction, do you feel that enough is being done, and where do you feel that there is room for improvement? After this break.
Eldoret, Chamge, get ready. The Insurance Open Day is here. The Insurance Regulatory Authority, in partnership with the County Government of Uasin-Gishu, is bringing the insurance message to you. Join us from 16 to 18 June 2021 at the Central Primary School grounds and learn about insurance. Insurance companies and other financial regulators like the Retirement Benefits and the Capital Markets Authorities will be present to educate you on the various financial services and products available in the market. IRA officers will be present to address any concerns and clarifications on your insurance policies. Entry is free and all Ministry of Health COVID-19 protocols and guidelines will be observed. Get to Eldoret. IRA, promoting insurance, protecting the insured.
Like every mom, you want the best for your child.
Happy birthday.
You make sure she knows the joy of sharing happy moments with family. And when everything comes together, you above all others will share the taste of success with her. Blue Band tastes like mama's love.
Leadership Forum, and we are delving into teen pregnancy. What are the causes? What do we need to do to stem the tide? And as I mentioned, we have Jackie at the coast, Jacqueline Waweru. She's a youth advocate. Jackie, I asked her a question. Do you feel that enough is presently being done to address the problem? And what opportunities for improvement do you view there being?
Yes, Oliver, I would say, I would give it to the government. There is much being done by the policy makers and also by young people and the civil societies. I know there's, after we had the alert on the high cases or the first numbers that came out, we had governments forming task forces and trying to see how they can come up with initiatives to see how they can also cascade information and create awareness in the communities. And also we've had CSOs come up with different projects engaging young people, engaging adolescents in schools, and even trying to see how they can also assist the government to come up with structures or frameworks and policies that can be able to help the young adolescent in school, even in terms of menstrual hygiene. But currently, I still feel, Oliver, there is a big gap, because currently I feel there is a need for us also to direct our initiatives also to the parents themselves. Because one thing is for sure, Oliver, there's a lot of information that is not reaching or not going on at home. Because most time, I would say, even COVID has really shown us that our children also, when they spend time at home, the parents are not able to speak to them about puberty and some key issues that go on with them, with their bodies. And some of them try to access information on social media. Technology has come in. COVID has taught us that even the children and adolescents can use laptops and smartphones to access education. But currently, there's no limit to what information these children are getting online. And we do not even know some of the websites that their children are accessing online. And some of our parents are busy trying to look for a livelihood. So some of them are not able to track what their child does with their phone or their laptops. So I feel there is more information on parent and child communication that needs to be taught to parents and also to the children. There's a need for us to sit down with our parents and to have also our children, so that the children can be able to dialogue with the parents, and the parents are able now to understand what is going on with our children. And even in terms of generation, Oliver will not lie to you. Currently, right now, my generation and the generation below me, we have different communication.
Okay.
We have different language. So there's a need for us also to be us of young adolescents. They're listening to different music that my generation is not listening to. The content that they're listening, even in terms of music, is different even to me personally as a young person. So even our community-based organizations that are youth spoken by adolescents, our parents need to understand that the language that these children are speaking about. And there's a need for also the government to see how, even as much as I know, right now in our education system, there's a lot for us to cover. But can we have life skills inside the schools? Can we have comprehensive sexual education to be taught inside the schools, so that the girls are able to make informed decisions, the boys are also brought in, and they're also able to make decisions and protect their sisters and brothers?
Okay. And Vanya, before I come to you, please allow me to put the ball in Mheshimiwa Denita's court, given what has been raised by Jackie. Has Parliament conducted a public inquiry into what could be the root causes of teen pregnancy? And also, she talks about parents having these conversations with their children. It's not always an easy conversation, even when issues of contraception, where adolescents are concerned, have been brought onto the floor of Parliament. Usually there are sensitivities that have to be navigated around. So Mheshimiwa Denita, what has Parliament done as far as this is concerned?
Yeah, well, even on the floor of Parliament, we have raised these concerns really through to the Departmental Committee on Health, on Education, basically. We have actually summoned the CS Health to appear before Parliament, really, to answer to such questions, including identifying the reasons why, we have a lot of teenage pregnancies in this country. And that is an inquiry that Parliament is actually constituting now, to be able to actually go around the country, the entire country, to identify the root causes of teenage pregnancy. But again, you understand also that the period that is COVID really is a period that has extremely been terrible. It has completely, it has skyrocketed. And even in Parliament, we have actually called and said teenage pregnancy in Kenya must be declared a national disaster. It is actually a serious national emergency in this country, and it is worrying. And even as we speak now, we have had conversations with the Ministry of Education to actually look at these concerns. But again, we talk about education and teenage pregnancy, and we look at girls in these schools, and we realize that we have free primary education. But again, this free primary education, there are challenges even within the free primary education. You realize that even within this kind of education, girls with disabilities, even as much as this country has free primary education, they hardly go to school. Imagine a girl who spends about 4 to 6 days in every month because of her periods. They do not go to school. You see, if you add, she has spent, almost 36 days in a year without access to school. So we're also trying to see how then are we talking about free primary education, because free primary education cannot be free without, the infrastructure that enables a girl child to be in school, to stay in school, and to complete school. And sanitary pads are a problem, and we're trying to see how then do we revise this, because as we speak now, you realize within the Ministry of Education, the amount of money that is allocated to free sanitary pads that are distributed to every girl in primary public schools is about 594. Spread across the country, 594 million cannot be able to cover a girl in school, because we have so many girls. So we are trying to review to see then how does the ministry increase this allocation of free sanitary pads to girls to ensure that they go to school. And I'm even telling you now, even by the way, the president has been very clear on this issue of free primary education. President Uhuru Kenyatta, you remember, during the ICPD 25, the Nairobi summit that was held in Nairobi here, declared 0% to teen pregnancy by 2030. And you remember, he also talked about other factors that actually contribute to this, including saying we have to have zero FGM, for example. You know, cultural issues. You know, we have things that really put girl children down, and they hardly go to school. Culture contributes. Parents have left the responsibility of raising their children to teachers and the social media. We as members of parliament, we may close, yes, but parents have a responsibility to take care of their children. We cannot say you are leaving your child to go and be guided by a principal or a school or a church or social media or TV. You know, those are the things that parents must also up their game when it comes to taking care of their children. We are speaking about COVID. And now my question to parents and the community at large, do parents usually know where their girl children are when it reaches 6 o'clock, for example? Because you realize that your child is at your neighbor's house. The child is, you know, and parents must just give much. And that is what my colleague was saying, that when we are talking about taking responsibility, raising a girl, it is the whole village. It is a whole responsibility. Okay. But it starts from your own home. All right. But in parliament, you will also realize that even despite the fact that girls do conceive by mistake, because of, you know, 1, 2, 3 things. This teenage pregnancy that we are calling a national disaster, a national emergency, we in parliament have devised policies and laws that can actually enable girls, even despite the fact that they give birth, they should be able to return to school. Now we have the return to school policy that we have, what we are calling the care and protection of children. We have a bill, have a bill in the Senate that is very active in the Senate and is actually sponsored by my colleague in the Senate, Honorable Kwamboka, that says that the government must develop structures that ensure that girls who actually fall pregnant in school must actually be supported to continue with their pregnancy while in school, and they should also get time to go home and deliver, and also they need to, you know, to get counseling along the way so that they are able, after delivery, to be able to actually go back to school. Okay. And you cannot go back to school. Schools are now even being compelled to make sure that they have the care centers even within their school setup, right, where this girl can actually put her child and go to school and remain in school and complete school.
And true, Mheshimiwa, even when we've covered exams, we've seen girls taking their exams in hospital rooms after delivering, for instance. And Vanya, as Mheshimiwa has raised, government has made commitments. For example, she's raised President Uhuru Kenyatta saying we need to eliminate teen pregnancies by 2030. And we'll get to Mwambi, who'll break down the legal framework where teen pregnancy is concerned in terms of preventing it is concerned. But where's the gap between having the legislation and actual implementation, or actually realizing a decline in teen pregnancy?
Thank you. So to answer that question, I'll start by a quote I read, that if you want to know how a society is doing, look at the condition of their children. Now you see, adolescents are caught in between kind of a murky road, so to speak. They're not quite children and they're not quite adults. And there's bodily changes happening. And they're acquiring knowledge and skills that will support their participation in society, their participation in relationships, kind of this, you know, where they're designing their kind of their moral spectrum, so to speak. And it is the information and the experiences, information, skills, knowledge and experiences they get during this period that determines whether they're going to be exposed to harm or not. So when it comes to teen pregnancy, as we said, the way the system is set up, we don't have, young people are not accessing knowledge. And it's interesting, one of our panelists talked about including sexuality education-based programs in schools. But young people told us that's not what they want. Because in many cases, teachers are perpetrators. In other cases, teachers aren't necessarily trained to educate children on comprehensive sexuality education. So it is important for us to program responsively in a way that responds to what young people need. So the gap is not in our utterances. We have ratified the African Charter on the Rights of the Child. We have ratified the Convention on the Rights of the Child. We have an adolescent sexual and reproductive health policy. We have a child parent protection policy. So we are not policy poor. We are implementation poor. Like the dirt, we're thin on implementation. And the first foot into implementation is financing. If we come up with policies and frameworks that do not have adequate strategies and frameworks for implementation that then can be financed for very targeted programs, we're not doing much. We're creating a lot of policies, so we're going to be stuck in systems. We're not coordinated. So every different department will have a different policy. For instance, access to sanitary towels, a girl's experience to her period is not a singular issue about a pad. It's about accessing safe and clean water. It's about addressing stigma around periods and addressing period poverty so she can access sanitary towels. It's about accessing a toilet. But also, she's in a school with boys. So you could take pads to school, but she doesn't want the shame of going to the toilet and there's a line of unwrapping that pad. So she's trying to navigate all of these realities with very little support. And we are kind of thinking that throwing money, which is not much, let me just say, but adding money to the already existing systems will fix the problem. What we need is to develop very targeted adolescent and young youth responsive programs, which is what the Sauti Sasa campaign pushes for, by co-creating solutions through action plans at the county level, where young people and duty bearers work together to determine what their priorities are as far as this issue is concerned, then push for financing and push for youth-led social accountability. Only then can we say we're doing enough, because then we will be able to demonstrate it in the results we get.
Okay, so on the issue of pads, I really hadn't thought about, access to water, access to toilets, and all that goes beyond just providing the pads. But a statement you've made just now has surprised me, that the youth are saying they don't want sex education delivered by teachers. Who then?
They would rather experts, external experts, who have trained on providing this information, engaging with young people, either come to school or hold clubs outside of that premises, in spaces where young people are free to engage and communicate. So it's not to kind of vilify teachers. It's just understanding that the cultural and societal and cultural spectrum is the same for everybody. So it's likely that the teacher you're expecting to train or teach these kids about their first sexual interaction wasn't given that information themselves, right?
Okay.
So they walk into the room with a stigma. And children and young people and adolescents know this. And also adolescents, and young people know that my peer is just as less informed as I am. So they'll go to the internet. So research has shown they will likely believe, for instance, even a trained healthcare provider, more than they'll even go to their peer or to the teacher, because even the parents are not, you understand? It's
Yes.
cultural. And so what young people told us when we did the first phase of this report was they want everybody involved. Because it's like, imagine a young person, you're born, so you have this girl and this boy, in this case will be binary, right? And there's a pathway, a road that leads from their home all the way to the rest of wherever their life leads. And on this road, there are different points of interaction. There's school, there's church, there's a kiosk, there's a big supermarket, there's a police station, there's a facility. What the evidence of what we are seeing with our numbers is that the pathway that young people in this country are passing through, they're doing it by themselves, because none of these points of contact are responding to what their needs are.
Okay.
So we need to be we need to listen and then respond.
Very well put. Listen and then respond. And Mwambi, I saw you were listening to Vanya and nodding your head when she listed the policies that we have in place, and she talked about the gap actually comes when it comes into implementation. So I want to ask you to repeat what the legislative framework is and what our guiding principles, as it were, are. But I will ask you to come in at this point. So sex education, first of all, I should invite you, the viewer. I'm curious, where did you get your sex education? Was it from your teacher? Was it of social media, depending on your age? Because even Jackie raised this point where she was like, a lot of young people are getting this information off the internet, and the veracity of that information cannot be depended on, and it sometimes leads people astray and can mislead. So first of all, Mwambi, I'm curious, with your generation, where did you get your sex education from? And then secondly, when we talk about, now that we've ventured into sex education, when we talk about teen pregnancy, can we afford to not talk about access to contraception for adolescents? I know it's a sticky subject, so start with the first question.
Okay. Thanks, Madam Wari, for... I was nodding when my colleague was talking about what she has raised. There is the issue of culture. Culture is a very weighty issue. Sorry. From society to society, from community to community, and Kenya is no exception. What is happening? You have asked a question about our generation. Those good old days. There were ceremonies which somebody had to undergo, but it was not very clear. It was by trial and error. Here we are parents. We have done it by trial and error. Now I have grandchildren. At least with them, they are a pretty fair, because at least we are somehow mentioning about it in the houses. When I grew up, my father and mother would not talk anything about sex. It was a taboo. I think for those ones who grew up in the 70s and the 80s, that's when we were in school. It was like a taboo. If you mention anything called sex, you can even it suffered a beating. Where did you get it from? But nowadays, the children of today are able, somehow. But I was doing some literature when I was looking at the history of Philippines. They started from where we are. It happened, the issue of teenage pregnancy was a very big issue in that country. And I'm wondering the way my colleague from Amref is saying, Madam Kibu, that the children don't want to undergo this one during their curriculum. I think KICD, Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, will come out very clear. We should have programs. If we keep quiet, we lose lives. The figures are very worrying. Yes, we can say the number of teenage pregnancies are skyrocketing. What happened during delivery? These are girls who are not even prepared. And as by law, as I said, the Sexual Offences Act, Section 8 is very clear. Anybody having sexual intercourse with a person who is under 18 years commits a crime and is liable for imprisonment. The term is big, but the people here, they are doing a lot of these things again with our children. Madam Mori, I can tell you, the other day we had an argument. After the Violence Against Children survey was launched, there was an issue which came out, and somebody said, if the law, we have the Sexual Offences Act, famous known as Susan Njoki Ndung Act of 2006, if it was in force, most of us characters men will be serving in the committee, Naivasa, Kodiak, and everywhere. Because it happened that the way Madam has put it, that you find that even the perpetrators are the teachers. Some of the perpetrators, who are they? They are the relatives at home. You find a father dividing his own daughter, a brother dividing his own sister, an uncle dividing his own niece. Relatives who come to stay in your house, they are dividing your children within the same house and they are impregnating them. Then the issue of teenage pregnancy is always rising every day in and day out. Wherever such kind of cases are reported, the same family where Mwesimua comes from, she's my neighbor. I know what we say, that this race goes, let us not spoil the name of the family. But we don't look at the best interest of that child who has been defiled, has been impregnated at the age of 13, at the age of 14, at the age of 15. These are children. You find that now we have children with children. I'm wondering, they have liked the way Jacqueline from Caribbean has put it. Who will guide who? Mm-hmm. Can a child guide another child? I'm wondering.
Good question.
Can children be children, so that we leave the children to play their role as children? The roles are there. We have a map the ways he has replaced them. We have the UNCRC, which Kenya ratified and signed. The African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child talks about all things for the African child. We have our Constitution, Article 53, talks about the rights of a child, which was not there in the old Constitution. We have the Present Children Act of 2001, which is being repealed, and I'm happy. Before we came here, I think after this, We need to see how do you put it, because now we have a rebuild, children bill of 2020, which has captured the spirit and the rest of the Kenyan Constitution of 2010, whereby most issues affecting children have now been spelled out. We hope the issue of implementation and the effecting, if courts make a ruling that this guy is a perpetrator, has committed a crime against a child, the person should serve what as by what the law says. But remember what happens? They go to a court of appeal. At the end of the day, it's the court which makes the decision. If the court of appeal says there was no lack of evidence, this guy is scot-free, goes to divide more children, immigrants more children, the numbers are rising, and here we are saying what's not happening in our country. I think it is a responsibility of every Kenyan. And one department, one ministry cannot address this issue. It must be addressed from a macro-sectoral approach. Everybody. I'm happy the way the president has come out very clearly when those numbers came out.
Understood.
That by the year 2030, I'm hoping by then I could have retired. I hope the year 2030, the vision 2030, we find, even in the Philippines, they did whatever they did. They reduced these numbers of teenage pregnancies. They said from whatever they was to around 5 to 10%. If you read this sort of Philippines education. But because they introduced sexual reproductive education in the education system, so that the girls know, can they wait? These young boys terrorizing the young girls, even these teachers, the question is, if their fruits, we can call girls young fruits or flowers, if they were destroyed when they were young, we cannot have a fruit, we cannot have a ripe fruit. Can they wait until the time comes? So even for young girls listening to us, even those parents who have young girls and young boys, can they talk to their children? That these children to wait until their time is up.
All right.
Because now we find the children getting to what they are venturing to where they are not supposed to venture into.
And you raise a very good point, which is the issue of the boy child. And Jackie, I haven't forgotten that you're there. Jackie, why is it important that we have male champions when it comes to ending teen pregnancy?
I mean, just from what my colleague just talked about, that this issue of teenage pregnancy is a collective responsibility for everyone right now in the country. From the community, from the household level, I would say for the fathers, for the boys, for the brothers, currently right now, I would call upon everyone to take it as a collective initiative that we are able to protect our girls. Because one thing is for sure, Olive, I would say the life of a girl child when she's young, she still needs a father figure. We've in the African setup, we've never thought about it, but in terms of parenting, the first boyfriend of a girl when she's young is her father. How her father treats her, that's what builds her self-esteem. That's how she's taught to negotiate with the opposite sex. That's how she knows that I'm ought to be treated like this. I'm ought to be done this too. I mean, the father is the first male person that should tell a girl, you are beautiful. But now, if we do not have fathers at home, it becomes an issue. A girl develops becoming, she has a low self-esteem. She's never been told that she's beautiful. And then she comes out here, she meets this guy. She's very young, going to school. And this guy starts lying to her that you're beautiful, you're pretty, and gives her the attention that she needs. At home, she's not given that attention because she's living a life maybe in the rural where her mother is struggling, trying to see and meet the ends and trying to see that they are able to feed. So you'd see in the life of a girl that it's very important that we have male figures who can be able to teach girls that they ought to be respected, they ought to be protected, they ought to be treated with respect, and there's time for everything. And there's time to get married, there's time for you to go to school, there's time for you to be able to access information and the right content of information, and even there's right for you to even access a commodity like sanitary pads, panties. You're able to even make yourself look good. But you see, the moment we do not involve the men and we leave that component of the men, and most of the men currently in the African setup, they're the gatekeepers. These are the decision makers. Most of our fathers are decision makers in our communities. So even if as we are trying to come up with an initiative to try to empower the girl child, they become a stumbling block because they've not been involved. Even when we are doing a lot of feminism, Currently, feminism has been looks like a war between the two genders, because the men have never understood what feminism is. They think that the women are coming to take over, or we are building the girl child to take over and to diminish the boy child. But if they really would get to understand what feminism is, and they would get to understand that it's just trying to bring a girl to an equal ground, that they're able to help each other, to help the boy, and the boy to be able to help the girl to be able to achieve something, then we would not have this gender war that we have currently right now, even in terms of our country. So right now, I believe it's very important that we have boys, even in terms of menstrual hygiene. When we are having discussions inside the schools about menstrual hygiene, it's very important that we bring in the boys. We should stop that era of, when I was in school at my time, boys would be chased away when we're discussing about menstrual hygiene or we have visitors coming in. But it is time we started talking to the boys also. They need to understand that they do not need to shame a girl who has dirtified her dress or has stained her dress, that they will even give their pullover and protect that girl, or even try and teach even a sister, a younger sister, on how to use a sanitary pad. And that is how we shall even be able to stop the gender-based violence. We need to...
Okay. I think the connection has provided a problem there for a minute, but we had pretty much of what Jackie had to say, and she talked about doing away with the stigma when it comes to issues of menstrual health, for example, and she was answering the question on male involvement when it comes to issues of sexual and reproductive health. And I can see that Men Engaged Kenya Network are engaged in this conversation. We'll be back after this break with more.
Mama yao, angalia mikono yangu imeparara.
Ala, aibu gani mwenzangu? Kwani umekuwa ukitumia sabuni gani ya unga? Unahitaji sabuni na laini kwa mikono. Unaona Ariel mpya inayeyuka haraka na ni laini kwa mikono yako, huku ikiondoa madoa sugu.
Na mikono yangu ni laini na safi.
I have to admit, I didn't like Sukuma Wiki when I was growing up, but now I've created a way to make Sukuma Wiki tastier and meatier. I simply add 2 Royco beef cubes, and the end result is a rich, meaty flavor. And today, I have brought along my harshest food critics for a taste test. My kids.
More, please!
Royco beef cubes. Add 2 small cubes for a big, meaty taste.
Get with new Always 2-in-1. Featherlight softness overall, even on the wings, girl. And rapid dry channels. Always.
Kijani Ridge is Tatu City's premier neighborhood, offering a 1.25-acre fully serviced plot in a controlled development. The plots overlook a beautiful dam with natural green spaces. Kijani Ridge is a walking distance from Nover Pioneer and Crawford International Schools. Families are already moved in, and more homes are under construction. Contact us for daily site visits and own your dream home with us.
Fresh Fry Premium Cooking Oil now has a new look and an advanced spout and seal. Triple refined, 0 cholesterol and natural vitamin E. Fresh Fry, always heart friendly. Now it's even more cooking friendly. Fresh Fry, the premium cooking oil for healthy living.
Ah, Helen Paul.
Hello, madam. Would you like to join us on this mission?
Yes, but how?
Just one question for you. How do you keep your toilet clean?
I use regular detergent and bleach for washing and removing yellow stains. I've been using it for years.
Oh, madam, the regular detergents and bleach are used for washing clothes. To disinfect your toilet properly, you need Harpic 10X. It is specially made for germs and stains removal. Harpic's thick formula settles on stains and gives 10 times better cleaning compared to regular detergents and bleach.
Wow, now I'm convinced, Helen Paul.
Really?
Yeah.
Now that she's part of the mission, the next house is yours.
It's Jumia's 9th anniversary. Enjoy up to 50% off.
There are about 24,000 registered cooperatives in Kenya, out of which 5,000 are savings and credit cooperative societies, commonly known as SACCOs. The cooperatives have a loan portfolio of about 700 billion Kenya shillings and member savings of about 500 billion shillings. Boresha SACCO, which was founded in 1976, is among the SACCOs transforming lives in Rift Valley, especially among the unbanked communities.
We had to change from being Baringo Teacher SACCO into Boresha SACCO. We are serving everybody now.
Our asset base has grown from Kenya shillings 60,000 to 8 billion.
As a bank, we've given Boresha SACCO credit lines of about 500 million.
They have given us capacity building for our members of staff, quick access to our accounts using the systems.
Boresha SACCO nilitupea loan, tukamalizia nyumba na nikanunua tangi.
Cooperative Bank is working with cooperatives to transform lives.
There you go.
Okay, thank you.
Hi there. Selena, it's great seeing you getting so much value for your money.
Well, it's important to save as much as you can.
You save everywhere. Except for here. This is where you're throwing money down the drain.
How?
On these cleaning products.
Impossible.
Harpic 10X. While other cleaners flow away, Harpic 10X's viscous formula in only one round of application gives you sparkling, clean toilet. Harpic, 10 times better cleaning than other cleaning products.
And great savings too.
It's Jumia's 9th anniversary. Enjoy up to 50% off.
Raukia siku njema na tunukiwa offers kila siku. Pata offers zote mahali pamoja ili uongeze zaidi, utume SMS zaidi na ubrowse zaidi.
Wewe usijali. Tuma namba ya kila supplier kwa hiyo soko. Ndio vile nitaongea na kila mmoja wao.
Very good. Piga *444 hash utunukiwe Credo double.
Raukia siku njema na tunukiwa offers kila siku.
Over 1,500 Kenyan patients are in dire need of blood transfusions daily. These include delivering mothers, cancer patients, and even accident victims. All they need is for you to go and donate blood. Every blood donation is a heartbeat preserved. By giving blood during this year's World Blood Donor Day, June 14th to 18th, you will be helping to keep the world beating. Remember to stay safe and wear your mask.
Like every mother, I'm worried about dangerous insects, especially mosquitoes, which spread diseases like malaria to my loved ones. This year, I'm not afraid. I'm using Mortein Doom. Mortein Doom All Insect Killer provides protection in seconds. Not even a single mosquito is spared, because even one mosquito bite can cause malaria. Mortein Doom provides protection in seconds.
It's Jumia's 9th anniversary. Enjoy up to 50% off.
Thank you for staying with us on NTV, NB Nation Leadership Forum. The discussion topic is teen pregnancy, and I have quite the eminent panel with me in studio. Vanya, in this round, I'll start with you. The issue of access to contraception for adolescents, I understand, is a sticky subject matter because there are those who believe it's akin to giving the teens license to do as they wish. Where do you stand on that issue?
Okay, thank you for that question. Yeah, because I really wanted to address that. I think we are uncomfortable with young people's or adolescent sexuality. And so because of that, we don't talk about it, we don't teach them about it, and then we don't supply them with the commodities they need for it. So young people are having sex. The part of the higher statistics on numbers on HIV and STI and HIV infections are amongst adolescents. So we can't go to young people and adolescents, tell them, wait. We know they are not waiting. So if young people tell us that they need appropriate information, we need to give it to them. a study actually showed that when a young person receives sexuality, age-appropriate comprehensive sexuality education, they will delay sexual debut, and they may even have fewer sexual partners in their adulthood. What we are doing is denying this, and instead of investing in the wherewithal to be able to provide adolescents with the commodities they need, even in terms of a referral system in the event that an adolescent is violated. What happens there? They should also get access to contraceptives, not only the reporting system, but also the health system. What kind of healthcare provider will they meet? Because the other thing that adolescents experience is that they will find the healthcare system very unfriendly because confidentiality is not upheld. It's not upheld, and healthcare provider often impose their moral stance on an adolescent. Unafanya nini hapa na mama yako ako wapi? Yeah, so you will not go there. And young people, in my previous experience is that they will not even go to a facility that is near their home because it is likely that that healthcare worker knows their parent. So we need to understand the way in which young people need to navigate and provide them with the information and education they need. The next thing is on data. Double counting is one thing, but disputing data leaves us at an impasse because the data we have is what is enabling us to develop evidence-based responses. So I don't know that having a conversation about that, the data is not there, and it's Kenya Demographic Health Information Survey, it's government data. I don't know that disputing it takes us any further. It makes us data deniers, and we don't necessarily use it to implement appropriate programs.
Yeah, because we can't talk about access to sexual and reproductive health services and the right to access those services unless we deal with those issues.
Yeah.
Evidence-based decision-making is based on data, and also the question of contraception and access for these adolescents to health services. Those are things we simply cannot ignore when we have this conversation. Mheshimiwa Denita, I'd like to come to you at this point because we need to put the money where our mouths are, because all of these things require financing. So how do we relied a lot on donor funding. You know, what interventions are there from Parliament to get more money allocated in this direction?
Thank you once again, and I really want to say that unfortunately, as much as issues of health, when you're talking about issues, SRH, issues of sexual reproductive health, I don't know why in this country we tend to remove the aspect of reproductive health and leave it to donors to support and NGOs and things like that, because, and it is wrong, because issues sexual reproductive health are not issues of donors. They're not issues of charge. They're issues of government, because if you look at what Article 43, 1A, stipulates, actually, it says that every person has a right to access, the highest attainable standards of health, including reproductive health. But then you realize that issues of reproductive health, they are spoken in hush tones. Even the funding that goes to reproductive health issues, it is really not even if there is funding, it really does not show the support, especially when it comes to issues to do with reproductive health. And that is why you're seeing these NGOs. And I must congratulate AMREF, because AMREF has really tried with so many other partners who are really trying to look at issues of, SRH for our young people. So you realize that even within the Constitution, because the right to health is a right that is guaranteed in the Constitution. The right to health, if you see what the country has also signed, what we are calling the Maputo Protocol. Now, the Maputo Protocol, which Kenya ratified, is basically a protocol, is a law that also looks at issues of sexual reproductive health, including the maternal services for women. So for me as a Kenyan, as a member of parliament, and as a lawmaker, I want to say that we make laws. We really have a lot of laws in this country. Kenya has ratified so many laws that we have, but now when it comes, and we provide funding in the budget. We just concluded the budget yesterday, the other week. You saw that Kenya, the 2021-2022 budget was read in Parliament, and you can see the allocation that is allocated to health. Almost 18% is money that has gone to health. And so that means health cannot be health when it does not include issues, maternal health, it does not include issues, reproductive health. And for us, we need to open up this kind of discussions, even beyond schools, so that our children are also able to see what goes on. The laws that we are talking about, as I've said, the Sexual Offences Act, that is a law there. We have that law. And then we have the law that we are calling the care and protection of child parents, so that they regain the power to go back to school and to finish school. So in Parliament, as my colleague has mentioned, we have made enough laws that actually, when implemented, can actually revolutionize, and they can change actually the way we look at reproductive health in this country. Parents hardly discuss issues sexual reproductive health with their children. Why are parents shying away from discussing issues that are you are leaving this to teachers, to social media? I mean, when have you seen a parent really sitting down to say, let me now understand what my girl is going through, and let me educate her, let me tell her about abortion, let me tell her about maternal health, and that is why you realize that even when girls fall pregnant and they go to, they hardly even seek they hardly seek reproductive health services. They don't go for post and antenatal care. Girls with disabilities hardly even go there. And then you go to deliver, and you find nurses, their attitudes are not right. I mean, a girl child is ideally not supposed to conceive. You are not supposed to give birth. You're supposed to be in school. So we have laws that we have. And we are not saying that we have a shortage of laws. We have laws that govern issues to do with sexual reproductive health, issues to do with health itself in the Constitution, and things like that. Okay. But again, you have seen situations where even when girls conceive, and especially this happens when it is an incest matter. When it is incest, that is that crime committed by family members, you realize the parents decide to sort that out of court. They hardly even go to report. So you see those cases go hidden like that. And in some cultures, like the Luya community, now when it is a child is brought about by incest, that child is thrown away or whatever. They have those cultural things that, I mean, we are not doing well when it comes to the implementation. The law enforcers must know that we have laws that govern how you settle these things. Out of court settlement is what is causing incest now in families. This is what is contributing. Teachers are defiling students and pupils, and teachers are being transferred instead of being taken to court. Those are they have to be sentenced. Teachers, those who are found, and that's why we wanted to review actually the curriculum, to say that when actually the Sexual Offences Act, if for example a teacher is found to have defiled his student in school there is no point of the ministry transferring this teacher from Migori, for example, where I come from, to Turkana. This same teacher will go to do that act in Turkana. Right. And this cycle keeps on repeating itself. So we have laws that we are seeking to completely strengthen, so that we are able to look at how then do we go about. We brought the reproductive health bill the other day in Parliament. You remember the reproductive health that seeks to address all these issues of reproduction, to ensure that even parents who are not able to conceive can have other ways of promoting their conception. All these things. And I guess there is a lot actually to get through where that is concerned. Right. But now I'd like us to start winding down this conversation and get to the thing that you would like to leave us with, where this subject matter is concerned, and that subject matter is teen pregnancy. And Vanya, as you give us your concluding remarks, perhaps also touch on the areas for potential collaboration in order to harness the limited resources at our disposal.
Thank you. So the areas for potential collaboration are a few. There's leadership. We need implementation of the policies that we come up with. Policies are promises. So we need to keep our promises to our people. It needs a whole of government approach, and government includes community. Therefore, the bigger part of our community, that is young people that make up 75% of this country, are part of the governance system. So we need to work with them in the leadership structure. We need financing. Now, Mheshimiwa has talked about the bigger part of our health budget being donor funded. It is, as of 2011, it was 51% of the health budget. So in terms of priorities, it took a pandemic for us to see an increased allocation in health. So those of us in this sector know that we have been ringing that bell and singing that song, but we have not borne much fruit. What we are asking for is not for a rollback in the gains that we have made, such that when we understand or when we address the situation of the pandemic, then we kind of dissipate or move away to other priorities. Health will always be a priority because the wealth of a country is determined by the knowledge, skills, and information that knowledge, skills, and health that an individual gets in the course of their lifetime. So we need to invest in that. Okay. And we have accountability. So we need to work together to make sure that the promises we keep, the monies we allocate, that there is a reporting structure. And that needs to happen at the most community level. Okay. Investing in adolescents is the smart option.
It is the smart thing to do.
The smart thing to do.
All right. And Mwambi, what are your last words on this subject?
Okay, thanks, Madam Olive. As my colleague has clearly put it, when it comes to issues concerning children, I talk about every issue concerning a child. Doesn't talk about finance, teenage pregnancy, care and protection, and all of those other issues. We need to be very, very careful, and as a nation, the issue of parenting is a very big issue. The issue of what we call multi-sector approaching these issues is of much importance. Then we are appealing. I think you have said that we make an appeal. We are still appealing to the National Assembly because the Children Bill 2020 is now in Parliament. We hope this is the right soon, so that because there are so many provisions which will cater for our children, for their best interest. Last but not least, I'm happy that the Mheshimiwa has put it, Madam Gibuya has put it, that the laws which have been enacted, can they be implemented and effected? I think that's what's lacking.
All right.
We have so many laws, but they are not being properly implemented.
We have taken
like now, if we implemented the Sex Offences Act, I am very sure the issue of teenage pregnancy in this country will be your past tense.
All right. And Jackie, what are your final words briefly?
My final words, Oliver, would be to the government first. There's need for, I would ask that there's need for more coordination in terms of implementation of policies. Because as Vania said, we are good at making policies. We are the best country right now in terms of having very good documents and policies. So there's a need for us right now to really work on the implementation. So there's a need for both governments to come together and coordinate and see how we can be able to implement on the ground. So if there is maybe an example, education, I know it's not default, but can we see how we can be able to implement some of the policies in terms of comprehensive sexual education, both as two governments in terms of national and also county. What can county do and what can national government do? Then the other thing is to the young people. I would like to call upon the young people to take also responsibility. We have the energy, we are strong, we can rise up and stop some of the key issues that are affecting our communities. We can be the gatekeepers. We can be able to stop even whenever you see a young person or a young adolescent with a school uniform being harassed, even on the road in a matatu, please just try and stop it, because we have the energy and we are the young people running this nation currently.
All right, thank you. And finally, Mheshimiwa Denita, you're a former journalist, so I know you can keep it concise. What's your last word?
My last point is basically simple, because we actually need a multi-sectoral approach to ending teenage pregnancy in this country. And as we have said, it is basically a national emergency that all stakeholders must address. County governments, I mean, health, I know health is still, health is devolved. Health is a devolved function. I mean, county governments must also look at how to address the issue of, youth sexual reproductive health, because youth live in counties and they don't live in Nairobi. Issues to do with the sexual reproductive, issues to do with education and, taking back, the girls back to school. I mean, we can all, pull up together. Issues to do with the rescue of of girls in situations where they are not able to address those kind of issues. We have a lot to do. This is what I can say. So for me, allow me to really say that it is the implementation. We have no shortage of laws in this country. So once we tighten the balls, and even in the National Assembly, we are trying to see how do we come up with a national inquiry into this issue that is teen pregnancy. We want to see a situation where even next month we want to propose a teen pregnancy awareness month that is basically creating our.
And there is one, I think, abroad in May, is it? So I want to thank all of you for taking part in this conversation. And Mheshimiwa, I apologize for cutting you short, but thank you for bringing in the question of counties. That one had slipped my mind. Well, that concludes tonight's conversation on teen pregnancy. I say tonight because the conversation continues online and into the future. As Mheshimiwa said, perhaps we need a month of awareness where this is concerned. So have yourself a good evening. The 9 p.m. news is up next.